So I'm Rachel Branson, for those of you who I haven't met yet, and I'm the Professional Development Manager here at NC Realtors. And I look forward to spending the next hour or so with all of you getting to learn about some best practices. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a couple housekeeping notes with all of you, primarily about Zoom. So first, please know that we are recording today's session and we will make it available on the NC Realtor website by the end of the week. So if you want to go back and reference or share with any of your colleagues or friends who may have not been able to join during this time, please feel free to look on the Education Roundup page on the NC Realtor site, and we'll make sure that it's posted for all of you all. And let's see, and then today is also meant to be open conversation. So a lot of webinars, we'll have a PowerPoint and it'll be more just a bunch of information being thrown at you. But we really wanted to make sure that you all had the opportunity today to voice any questions or concerns that you're facing within the real estate industry. So please, at any time, if you have questions that come up during our conversation, feel free to make a note of those in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we'll make sure to get to everyone's questions throughout today's session. So with all of that, I would like to introduce our special guest today. So Robert is the founder and CEO of Aerial Look and has spent the last 13 years building businesses in real estate and the automotive industries. He currently works with leading brokerages, builders, and developers around the world to help them sell real estate both on and offline. Aerial Look is a member of the NC Realtor Partner Program. You can learn more about the benefits of the Partner Program on the NC Realtor website, and more specifically about how Aerial Look can support you in your virtual marketing needs within the next coming months. So we're thrilled to have Robert join us here today to share his expertise and to help answer any questions that you all have about adjusting to your new virtual environment. So Robert, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Rachel. It's a blessing to be here. I love to strategize. That's how anybody who's successful gets to be successful, is by strategizing with other like-minded individuals. And great minds do think alike. And so I'm happy to have you guys here today because it means that we're thinking alike. And I want to make one thing clear. Yes, I do own Aerial Look, and yes, we do marketing for real estate agents, but I promise you that's not why I'm here today. I don't ever care if you ever buy anything from us or do business with us. That's not the goal. The goal is to provide value to you so that you guys can be successful and operate better in times of, in a volatile environment. And a lot of times, when we're hit with this type of environment, we don't know how to act because, well, we've never been here before, and that's okay. That's human nature, and not many people have. And that's what makes this this time different than all the other times, is the fact that, we're all in this together. It's not just you that's losing business, or not just your neighbor or your friend. It's every one of us, right? And so you don't have to feel so bad when you know that you got everyone else around you experiencing the same struggles that you are. And so I want you guys to remember that, because when you do remember that, you realize you're not going to be so much hard. You're so hard on yourself, right? And we are hard on ourselves. It's human nature. And so I just want to set that straight. So I'm here to help. I want you guys to know that you can ask questions. I moved out of my house at 15, and between my hustle and God, that's what got me here today and where I'll go tomorrow. And I've been in volatile environments because of living on my own at 15. And so I say let's thrive in any environment, because that's what I've learned to do, is thrive in any environment. We can all survive, but thriving is better. And anything that I can do to help you guys thrive, that's why we're here today. So I know, Rachel, you guys were so awesome to get some questions to Rachel, and so we want to take some time to go through those questions. And so we'll answer those questions, but at any time during answering those questions, don't hesitate to reach out in the comment section and ask for further explanation or clarification if needed, or just if it's another topic, and just so we know that we need to come to that topic before we end the conversation.
Absolutely. So I was really pleased and appreciate all of you taking the time to kind of think out where your biggest struggles are right now within the industry. We've got a fantastic list of questions put together by all of you, and like Robert said, just drop us a note if you want to cover anything else in the meantime. But I figured we'd get started by covering some of our questions that were submitted that let's see, are more specific to a certain technology or a certain program. So they're going to be quicker answers versus some of our more long-winded, bigger picture questions that we've been asked. So I guess let's get started by maybe addressing a couple Instagram questions.
Yeah.
We've got a couple people who have asked questions about videos specifically, and let's see, they want to know, how do I get my Instagram videos to stay on my Instagram feed versus being pushed off to my Instagram story?
Okay, so the first thing there is that the video is most likely longer than a minute. So anytime a video is longer than a minute, Instagram is going to automatically push it to stories, and really you can't do anything other than watch it on stories. So you can trim the video within the app and make it less than a minute. And remember, a lot of people have a beautiful video. They want people to watch the whole thing and see it, but a lot of times no one's going to take the time to watch it. And if they do, you're better to get their attention driven over to your actual site where you can reach out to them, or they can have a contact form to reach out to you. And so you definitely want to trim the video to under a minute, 15 seconds. Just pick the best 15 seconds of that video. Human nature is to ask yourself a question. You're more inclined to answer the question that you ask yourself than if I ask you a question. So for instance, if you're driving down a highway and you see a billboard that's just black with a white number on it, a lot of you will wonder, why would anybody spend the money to put a billboard up with just a white number? Well, it's because it's human nature, and we want to make you ask yourself a question, because you're selfish. We're all selfish. That's human nature. And because we're selfish, we will now take the time to answer that question. So we might jump on Google. We might star 67 and block our number and see who answers the other side. And so with marketing and videos per se, you want to take the time to grab the best 15 seconds. You want them wanting more. You want them to question themselves and say, hey, what's that? How do I get to see more? And then click on the shop now or learn more. Instagram, a lot of people do the learn more. I say shop now. I know that's a bit putting the carriage before the horse, but just set them in the right mindset. Shop now. Like, we want to make it a shopping environment, because that's what people are doing. They're buying. And you see that happen on Amazon and any other site. So why not apply it to real estate? So keep the videos under 1 minute, and use that, Instagram video to drive them over to an actual landing page where you can capture their data and you can turn that lead over to a buy or sell.
So, quick question on the Shop Now feature. Is that something that is only available if you have a business page set up, or could you implement that Shop Now feature in Instagram on your personal Instagram page?
So unfortunately, I don't have a personal Instagram account. I have only company Instagram accounts. However, so I wouldn't be able to answer that, but I would say that, when you have the option to boost the post, it'll have like a link, one of the options will be to put a website. And normally when you hit that, it'll ask you what you to learn more, shop now. I'm not sure if it offers it for personal, and if it doesn't, it's okay, just learn more, right? But if you do have the ability to put shop now, that's better than learn more, because it sets the buyer up.
Absolutely. Another Instagram related question that we had was relating to links. And I think that this is probably more for personal Instagram pages versus business, but is there any way to get around the limit of only having one link available in your Instagram posts?
So no, not that I know of. So the one link goes into the bio, and what a lot of the marketers on Instagram do is, if you ever see hashtag link in bio. And so what you do is you do your post, and then hashtag link in bio, and you go change the link up. And I know that it's not, it takes more time, but it's worth it, because you're changing the content. We do it all the time. Link in bio. News organizations do it all the time. They have to say link in bio, so that they're having to change the link daily. So I know that it's redundant, but just get used to doing it, and link in bio, and then put the link to that project or that home for sale in the bio, and that way people have easy access to it. And keep changing the link, because it shows people who are visiting your page that you're doing stuff, right? You want people to think that you're busy, and not just have one post from last year. That doesn't do well.
Exactly. Keep the content current.
Yes.
So Maurice is asking right now, what's the biggest misconception realtors have about Instagram?
So let's just talk about social media in general, because that's what Instagram is, and there's so many other platforms. But I mean, realtors, we all think that we post something and everybody sees it, and that's not the case. So I think it's great that everybody's excited about a listing and then they post in their newsfeed about the listing. But what happens is just the same people keep seeing it and they're just your friends, right? And so if they haven't gotten annoyed by your post, then they keep you in the newsfeed. But if they do, they take you out. And you don't ever want to be out of somebody's newsfeed because that's business, or potential business, right? And your goal as a friend in a network is to add value outside of your friendship. Because if not, then what is it worth, right? And so I always use Ronald Saja. And none of you know Ronald Saja. Don't expect you to know him. Maybe you'll go on LinkedIn and search for him. Ronald doesn't even know I bring up his name in a lot of different analogies that I use. But, Ronald is a realtor in Miami or West Palm Beach. And Ronald's in my LinkedIn newsfeed. And Ronald posts articles about developments in LinkedIn. And I come across those articles and I see the new developments coming and I find out who the developer is and I take that name down and I go Google the email address and then I write an email and 9 times out of 10 I get some sort of business from that developer that I read about in Ronald Saja's post. So Ronald Saja gets to stay in my news feed because Ronald Saja is always adding value. So be like Ronald Saja and always be adding value. So that's the first thing we have to talk about. The second thing is like for your customers too, it's great to be friends with your customers on Facebook because they're going to see you posting and they're going to see it come up in their news feed. And that's great because they're going to be like, oh, this guy or this woman, this guy or girl is working for me. Right. But in reality, you're doing no service for that customer because most of the people in your news feed aren't in the market to buy a home. And so it looks good to them because they think that you're marketing their home, but in reality, no one cares what you're doing unless you bring a sale. So what I suggest that you do is when you're going to post something on social media, always post it organically and then boost that post. But do not just go click boost the post. You have to be strategic in who you boost your post to, because if you don't, you're going to get a bunch of 18 to 24-year-olds that click on it. I can't afford to buy a house, not yet, and not all of them. And when that happens, you just wasted your money. And no one wants to waste money. Now, the one thing you got from it was views, and you can take those views and you can go show the buyer or the seller that, hey, I got your property, this many views, but those views didn't lead to a sale. So we always want to update, our clients on what traffic their listings are getting. But I know in the back of my mind, whenever these reports are being delivered, they don't care about the reports. They just care about sales. But the reports will always be memorable. And the reason being, and this is what I hate to see realtors lose a listing, especially ones that I know that did more than most realtors would do. Because a lot of realtors, what we do is we just take pictures and we post it on the MLS and wait for buyers to come. And that is okay because that's the ecosystem that's been built. But technology is being built to remove that ecosystem. You can be a part of it or you can watch it happen. I know you guys want to be a part of it. There's no need to watch it happen. So don't watch it happen and be a part of it by being strategic in the way that you utilize technology so that it doesn't take your job, right? And you can do that by, for instance, we talked about losing a listing, right? Well, if you show the data and the analytics, when it comes time to possibly lose that listing, if you can prove that you did more than any other realtor would have done and it still didn't sell, then it proves to the seller that, well, there might be another issue here and it's not the real estate agent. And a lot of agents lose homes before they can prove that value. And a lot of agents aren't able to prove that value because they didn't take the time to capture the data and display it. And so I want you guys to be data driven. Data is the new oil. You hear it all over. It's the truth. And I want you guys to remember that. Every one of you can be their own data gatherer and aggregator. Okay. That's up to you. You can pay Facebook for it. You can pay Google for it. You can pay all the different technology companies up there knocking down your door to give it to you. Or you could build it on your own, just like I built all my organic marketing for my businesses that help us to grow 30% every year and not spend any money on marketing. So, I want you guys to be data driven. And I want you guys to be analytical. And I want you to cover everything that you see in a listing, how many views a video gets, how many landing page views you get, how many people, how old were they, how many were men and how many were women, what areas did they live in. All that's so granular. When you show that to a seller, nobody ever showed that to a seller, and they're just upped their value. You just upped your value to them, right? And now they can trust that you're doing what you need to do in order to get their home sold, right? And so when it comes to social media and all that, post it, but then boost it. And then just don't hit boost. Go and find the right people, the demographics. Every time I look at a home or a project, I build a persona. Okay, the persona is built based off the project, the location, the price point, the features. I take those three things and I build personas. And those personas are the people that I know can buy this home. Not that I think will buy this home, that I know will buy this home. And realtors have more data than anybody because you guys have worked with so many buyers and sellers. You know what a persona is. You know that it reaches a demographic, or it links to a demographic, and you know that demographic has bought a home or sold a home with you before. So now you got to start to think about like it's a mathematical equation and not just a pipe dream. And that's what a lot of people forget is success is a mathematical equation. 1 + 1 = 2. I can never change that, nor can you. So if 1 being you plus 1 being a problem and you're the solution, then equals 2 money, success, a business, right? You can take that analogy and use it in whatever form you want to, but it is a mathematical equation. And if you act accordingly, then you will see your probability of being successful increase exponentially. And so you want to build the personas so that you can increase your success rate. You know that demographics that make $100,000 can afford a home in X price point. And you know that people that make $100,000 work in X area. So you can pinpoint your marketing to those areas that they live or work. And by doing that, you're getting your listing in front of people who can actually buy it, not people who just like to window shop. So.
Absolutely. So that kind of ties perfectly into the next question that one of our newer realtors to the industry has. So this realtor left us a message saying that this is her 3rd year in business with little to no sphere. How does she change that? How does she build her sphere of influence? Is that something that should be accomplished via social media or targeted farming? How can she work on increasing her business?
So you've built your sphere. What's her name?
I actually don't know. I didn't.
Okay, so whoever you are, I hope you're listening because you built your sphere. You did, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be in business for 3 years. So I don't know if this is your full-time or your part-time job, but regardless of what it is, you're making money, and that means you have a sphere of influence, people want to call it. So everybody mixes it up. They think that they read it in the news that Uber became $1 billion company overnight. And I'm not $1 billion company overnight, so I failed. In reality, people don't forget. First off, Uber's not even profitable. So, and look what just happened to Uber. See, this is the great thing about this pandemic, because it just exposed all the leaks and all the BS that's out there. Okay. So Uber's valued at billions of dollars, but it took 8 years to get up there, right? 8 years, right? So 8 years they were building their sphere of influence, and for 8 years you didn't even know who Uber was. So, your sphere of influence can't be defined about how many people know who you are because you posted your face on social media. Your sphere of influence is relative to how much business do you do? How many people know you? How many people think of you when they have a problem? That is what you have to be, the problem solver. My friends call me when they have a problem, not even related to anything that I do. Why? Because in my mind, I know that I know somebody, and I worked hard to build that network. And if I can help 2 people link, that makes me a provider of a solution. And when you're a provider of a solution, you get more phone calls than most people who don't provide solutions. And by doing that, that allows you to be in the mix. And when you're in the mix, then you get to be more involved in different business opportunities. And so to build your sphere of influence, always be adding value. Now go on social media and add value. Do it offline. See, people think that all the business is driven online. And it's true that a lot of it is driven online these days, but a lot of it's also driven offline. Those methods that are offline still work. I still watch realtors send mailers and get business. I still watch realtors, knock on doors and get business. The old school way is not the old way. It's still a way that needs to be implemented within a new way. You create a hybrid. When you take something old and something new and put it together, you're creating a hybrid, and the hybrid's more powerful than what was old and what was new because it's combined. You're taking the best of the best and combining it. And so you need to be thinking about what hybrids you can create in your business model, because you need to be the problem. You need to be the problem solver. You need to always have a solution. Then people will always be calling you. And yes, you're going to waste a lot of time answering questions that have nothing to do with putting dollars in your bank account or listings on your docket. But bottom line is that you will always be remembered. And when you're in a conversation, when the other person's in a conversation and someone comes up that needs something to do with real estate, you will be top of mind. I guarantee it. As long as you keep adding value, right? I say, let me add 10x value before I might ask for 1x value. Meaning, I want to add so much value to anybody I ever come into contact with. And I don't care if I ever see value from that person again. I get value. It's like compounding interest. I'm just getting value off the value that I keep adding. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a time when I need a value. Hey, your friend's listing that home selling. I'm just using this for an analogy for a realtor's example, but your friend's listing a home. Hey, will you let that person know that I sell homes? Well, if you built value for that person that you just asked that question to, most likely they're going to take that over to the person selling the home and say, hey, you should talk to my friend. They're a great realtor. They're definitely going to get your house sold. So focus on building value and the value will come to you. And on social media, to build your sphere of influence, no one cares that you have a house for sale. No one cares about the picture of the bathroom or the kitchen. Only people who care about that are searching for homes, and they're on Zillow and Realtor.com and MLS, and I can teach you how to reach them there. But anybody in your newsfeed doesn't care about that. So do not be unvaluable. Do not keep giving them unvaluable stuff. Go give them valuable content, right? If you're a realtor and you know the best place to eat on the weekends or take your kids, then you better videotape yourself live, checked in at that location, so you're benefiting the business as well, and telling them about this location, how much fun it was, how it's great to have kids. Like one thing, I have kids, and when I go to a restaurant, and as I know that anybody on this call who has kids now, you don't get to go out as much as you used to. And when you do go out, you actually have to plan. You can't, so I go to a restaurant and I'm planning, okay, well, I like to be in a comfortable setting. So I like to be in a corner because I have kids, and I like to be away from everybody else because who knows what crazy things those kids will do while we're eating. And, and so if I'm out and I find one of those locations, I know that there's other parents out there that probably want the same thing. And so maybe I take a video and say, hey guys, I know that being a parent, we're always looking for a great place to go eat that allows us to eat, relax, and not worry about what everybody else thinks about us because our kids are all over the place. And here it is.
Yes.
I just added value. You're keeping me in your newsfeed. And then maybe every weekend I go do something else and I provide value, because how many of us are parents every single weekend looking for something to do? And if you provided that answer for me in my inbox, well, then you're going to stay in my newsfeed. Rachel always posts some great places to eat. Maurice always posts great things to do on the weekend. That's what you want to be doing, is adding value so that people think of you of, oh yeah, Maurice is always giving me value. Rachel's always giving me value. Hey, Rachel, what do you need? Or when you go and post something, hey guys, I have a new listing, share it. More people are going to be willing to share it because you added value to them and they want to reciprocate.
Absolutely. No, that's wonderful. Always think about adding value in any way you possibly can.
Always be adding value. That's your
tagline. Yeah. So speaking of Maurice, Maurice has just dropped us a question in the box, and he wants to know, what do you think will be the top 3 strategies during this pandemic to be successful?
Well, it's one strategy, and it's called pivot. And I made some pivots for you guys that we'll talk about later on, but we'll definitely get to that when we get more into the more in-depth conversation. But the number one thing you guys have to do is pivot. Okay, I do it all the time. I thrive in pivoting, an environment where I get to pivot, right? So then if we want to talk about 3 strategies, I'll say there aren't 3, there are only 1, it's pivot, but we'll talk about 3 to make it easier to consume. 3 strategies would be number 1, be pivoting. 2, understand that things are changing, but do yourself a favor and do your research, okay? There is data that's available, and it is pretty good data. And based off that data, you can make some really good informed decisions. But, you got to watch what you read, because some of it's true, some of it's not true. And you don't want to be creating decisions based off of skewed data. And so that number 2 is be mindful of the data, understand things like what the housing market is doing, what the stock market is doing, what mortgage rates are doing. And yes, there's a lot of different factors, which we'll get to, that talk about, yes, this is a good time to buy and sell, but then there's other factors that'll tell you, no, it's not the best time to sell. Please wait. And you need to know how to define the difference, and you need to be a risk taker. So the 3rd strategy is you got to take risk. So I know that that's not 3 strategies you'd ever hear. Everybody else would give you a definition of this, and this, but that's not what it is. It's pivot, know your data. And the 3rd one being, I lost it.
Risk taker. Be a risk taker.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think a lot. I think quickly, so sometimes I lose it. But yes, the 3rd one being a risk taker. And so, pivoting means, what other markets can you do business in? yes, you sell homes, but right now maybe it's not as easy to sell homes. Or yes, you sell homes in this price point, but this price point's not as good as that price point. So how can I get to that price point? So thinking about pivoting and like, oh, I have an investor client. Well, we know what investors are worried about now, which we'll get to in a little bit. And how can I meet those needs? How can I provide solutions to those investors? Or how can I take the needs of current buyers and help them accomplish them, which we'll get to in a second. So that's pivoting. And then the number two, your data. I mean, the Realtors Association has been great at putting off some great articles. Find a source. All of you have your sources, right? And I'm not going to tell you where your source should be. You know better than I do. So find your source and just be mindful of it, and be looking at all the data points, right? So be looking at the housing numbers, be looking at the closing. And this is something your clients are going to want to hear from you. And if they don't hear it from you, then you just are like everybody else. But if you come in there and you know the data, they're going to look at you and like, this guy's analytical or this girl's analytical. And that's the difference. That's what's needed right now, is someone who's analytical and not someone who just throws it on the MLS and waits for buyers to come. So
absolutely. And I can say that we've been really fortunate in that our legal staff at NC Realtors and our government affairs team has worked tirelessly over the last couple of months. So there's a specific coronavirus webpage on the website that has a ton of data collected, all relating to these current situations. So if you're looking for current data, that's definitely a great place.
Source.
Yes.
So
lots of other sources out there too, but that's a great place specific for our realtor members to start, for sure.
Yeah. And then in terms of risk taking, I mean, you guys know what it is to take a risk. It's anytime that you're not comfortable doing something. So I want you to be using the data, be smart about the risk that you take. But yeah, that's what a risk is. Taking risk means you're going to be put in an uncomfortable scenario, and people who thrive are the ones who are successful in those scenarios. And that's the training that you need to continue to survive and thrive at the peak. And a lot of people don't understand that. All of this that's going on right now is training. It's training for you, it's training for me, it's training for all of us. And if you look at it that way, then you start to look at things differently. And that's where positive and negative self-talk come into play. Self-talk is a huge factor that needs to be taken into consideration in your whole strategy. If someone called me up, if Rachel said, hey, Robert, we can't do the webinar today, but we can do it on Friday. Then I would leave and I'd go tell my wife, like, yeah, Rachel canceled on me today. Or I say, yeah, we rescheduled the webinar until Friday, which sounds better.
It does.
Which makes you
feel
all
perspective.
Better. Exactly. It's all about perspective. It's all about self-talk. So we've all never been in this type of environment before. So no one has, the future to tell you. All we can say is that, well, number one, and God's got it. And number two, you got it. And that's all that you need, and all you need to focus on is you and what you know. And, take the data in and consume it and analyze it and create a hybrid of an action plan that's required for you to be successful, because how you're going to be successful is completely separate and different from how I'm successful, how Rachel's successful, how Maurice is successful. So you have to realize that and then start to build and be confident in that, because there is no right way. There is only your way, and your way becomes the way if you learn and grow from your experiences. If you don't learn and grow from your experiences, your way will never be the way, and it's just a waste of time at that point. So.
Absolutely. So. All right, I think that is a perfect place to transition into some of our bigger picture questions that people have. So some of these are COVID-19 related, some of these are virtual marketing related, but I think a really great place to start is to start by discussing how safety is going to be involved within our industry moving forward. So one of our members has asked, how do I adapt while also maintaining client safety?
Okay, so that's a good question. First of all, you have to make your client feel safe, because no one's going to feel safe in this environment. But if you make them feel safe, then you've moved the needle. You've taken someone who might not sell and made them want to sell. Or you took in someone who was going to buy and not going to buy anymore, and you're going to make them buy again because now they feel comfortable because you made them feel comfortable. See, you're a leader. And I don't know if you guys know that, but That's what you are. You guys are leaders, and you lead within your community, and you lead people on one of the most important investments in their entire life. And take that seriously. And once you do, then it gives you the confidence that you need and it's required to go figure out all the things that you need to figure out so that you can make them feel more comfortable. What are their needs? What are their wants? Why do they feel scared? And how can you bring the solutions to the table? That, number one, is going to help you with your current clients. But number two, if you get the message out right, is going to help you gain more clients. Everybody else is focused on, oh my gosh, what do I do? You got people still trying to sell like it's a normal day. So posting stuff and doing it normal. Then you have people taking advantage and be like, oh, it's a hard time. And let's talk about how we come together and blah, blah, blah. You know, so I hate it because most of the people in the companies that are driving those marketing campaigns, it's BS. It's just literally to make you feel good about spending money with them. And they really don't care about you. So don't be like those guys, because I know you guys care because you're leaders. And so figure out the best way to showcase your message. You know, you could videotape yourself cleaning as you go into the house and what you do. You know, no one knows what you're doing. No one's reading about it. Just because Realtor John is cleaning the door handle before you open it and bringing booties for you doesn't mean that, you know, Jolene is doing the same thing. You know, maybe Jolene's doing something way better. Maybe Jolene went and bought a steamer for $100 and goes and steams everything, right? I mean, I just did that for our groceries, so that's why I know about steamer.
Jolene thinks that's funny. She said that's a way better idea, actually.
Great minds think alike. So, you know, you have to tell the story. So tell us the story about how you're making it safer to buy and sell homes. And what are some things you can do? Well, so a lot of it's common sense. All the things that you're doing to keep your family safe. And there's a message right there. Hey guys, I'm doing the same thing that I do to keep my children and my family safe that I'm doing for you. That's how much I care about you. So you didn't have to tell them everything that you did. They just know, well, if you're doing it to keep your family safe, then most likely, and they're assuming, and we don't want to make them assume, so we do want to list what you're doing. But I'm just talking about like the subliminal marketing.
Yeah.
You didn't have
that
to
connection.
tell them everything you had to do. You just told them, hey, I'm going to take care of you like I take care of my family. And if you're a good person, they know you take care of your family, and well, they're going to feel comfortable that you're going to take care of them. And so, you know, list the things, cleaning the doors and steamer. That's a good, you know, that'll get you some views on the video, just running around steaming things, right? So be smart with it, be creative. Another way to build your sphere of influence. You know, be the authority in cleaning homes before they're seen. So.
I love it. So talking about cleaning, some of our realtors have struggled in finding what are the best practices. I know the CDC's put out all sorts of information and guidelines, but we had one person who asked specifically, how do we find hand sanitizer and other items for our sellers and our buyers to utilize during the showing process for those of us who are able to physically show property right now?
Okay, so here's a great time to brand, right? So first off, I know you know that you can go buy alcohol solutions online and make your own hand sanitizer. Okay, so you go online, buy the alcohol, make your own hand sanitizer, get a hand sanitizer bottle, put your logo on it. That's a gift to everybody you're buying or selling with. If you don't have those resources, then you know you're going to be looking for stores that are not trafficked a lot. So you're going to go out to the country, the dollar store, right? You'd be surprised where you find things. The dollar store definitely has been a producer of hard to find items, especially if you find them out in the middle of nowhere where consumption isn't as high as where you're at. And so that'd be the first thing to do, is just be looking in the unlikely places, because most likely you'll find things there. You know, online is a great thing if you're don't have the resources to kind of make your own hand sanitizer, or, you know, I think that, you know, masks, you could sew your own mask and put a logo on it. You could buy them with logos on it. I've seen companies selling them with logos on it. Or, you know, masks are a bit harder. I've been involved in the mask game for the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. And, you know, so I've seen it firsthand. So I don't have the answers other than, you know, Amazon does have some deals, and, you know, you're not needing the N95s like the hospital needs. So you can make them or find them online, or a lot of the local community. And that's another way to come together. You know, it's like pivoting, right? It's like, hey, I sell real estate, and like other people, Glenwood Tailors, you know, they started making masks for people. They had their seamstress who were low on business or low on work. They said, hey, let's make these masks and sell them. And they sold out. And that was great. and, partner with a local business, help them sell more masks, help them get the masks needed for your entire team or your office that you work at. The booties are pretty, I hadn't heard that those are a problem to find. I think that, hand sanitizer is the biggest thing, and then sanitizing wipes. But if you have alcohol, alcohol and a paper towel, it gets the job done. And, you can there's plenty of alcohol around that. I know that, not the stuff that you drink. But,
Absolutely.
there's probably plenty of that around too. And the stronger the liquor, I'm sure you can use that. But, so yeah, there's some different ideas, but I would definitely be strategic. See, all these different opportunities are presented in a way for you to be creative and for you to actually turn a bad opportunity into a good opportunity. And so whether it be giving away hand sanitizer or partnering with your local seamstress to make masks for the community, whatever it might be strategic. I wish I had all the ideas. And if you really are having problems coming up with ideas, we can get together offline, via email, LinkedIn, or whatever. You can call me, I'll give you some time, and we'll strategize through it, because I don't have all the answers, but we can come up with them together. So, or I have friends and you have friends that have the answers, and we'll combine them.
Wonderful. So moving on to, I think, one of the very biggest questions that we've received from you all is, what do I do about lead generation? I need help. I don't know where to begin in transitioning to this virtual environment. How do I move forward with lead generation?
So now is the best time ever to reach people. And a lot of people don't understand that. And you watch these big brands stop spending money on marketing, which is so stupid. And everybody stops spending on marketing because that's the first thing that gets cut, which is the stupidest thing to get cut, because you need business to keep going. And why would you cut what gets you more business? And so, marketing right now is this is the best time to market ever. And I tell anybody that'll listen, and actually the more time that passes from this day forward is, we're getting that door is closing. And so, like, this week, all of you have $100 to $200, and I want you to go spend it on marketing yourself. Okay. I want you to think about your value adds that are different than they've ever been your entire career. I want you to figure out the best way to display it in copy and a photo or a video, even if it's yourself talking. And it really should be yourself talking, because you have to be real. And then I want you to spend that money, and I want you to reach demographics that can spend money with you. Okay. Now you have to get creative, because right now the best thing you can do to lead generate virtually is using social media. And the fact of the matter is, Facebook has done the real estate industry a wrong by not allowing it to target people like we used to be able to target. Now I get it. It's, for the fair housing laws, and that's totally acceptable. And we need to abide by that. So how do we be strategic with those laws that have been put into place? And so, unfortunately, you can't do it from your real estate site, because Facebook will shut it down. So, like, for instance, Aerial Look, we post a lot of articles. So we'll write up an article, and subliminally we'll mention, in a subliminal manner, we'll mention the best place to live, or the best place to retire, or, stuff like that. And the article is really just about talking. It's benefiting a demographic. So we've chosen, say, a 55-year and older demographic. We know that most of them are aging out of their homes. And so we wrote an article about aging out of your homes and where the best places, the most affordable places to retire. And it just so happens that we Taylor Morrison had some new listings in a little golf course community, and that's what we were trying to sell. So we said, hey, here's an article about the best places to retire. But when you click the link on the article to find out some of those places, it just brought you to the listings in that neighborhood, right? So I didn't break any fair housing laws. I made sure that I had a link to something that was relevant to the demographic that I was marketing. But then I was able to choose the different age groups that I would market to, because I don't want to market to 18 to 24-year-olds a home that's a 55-year and older community. I only want to market to people who are 55 years and older. So I can be strategic with that, because we have another company that's not real estate related. It's real estate marketing, but it's not selling homes. And we can bypass that. But for people like yourself who don't have that ability, and maybe you do, maybe you have a brother, a sister, a son or a daughter, or a husband or a wife that has another business page, and you guys can partner to post some things from that business page, abiding by the fair housing law, and try to be strategic in that manner. If you can't do that, then Facebook only allows you to drop a pin and allow a minimum of a 15-mile radius. So like in Miami, what we do is we want to reach people on A1A because that's where all the rich people live, right? And so we take the pin and we drop it in the ocean. People are like, why are you dropping pins in oceans? Well, because the radius of that 15 miles, if I drop it in the right part of the ocean, will hit and they'll cover over A1A. And then I'll drop a pin up the coast. So it's covering over A1A. It's not covering anybody else. And when people in the ocean, maybe be on boats, are going to see that ad, right? So I'm not wasting a lot of money to people who I don't want to see it. And all the people that I want to see it in that corridor of A1A are now seeing the ad, right? And that's the way to game the system without having to have another page, just using what you already have. But when you get into markets like this, North Carolina, like I know that North Raleigh, you have like Wakefield and you have Briar Creek, that's all northern. So what I know that is also, once you go past those neighborhoods, it begins to be less populated. So I know that if I drop my pin above Wakefield or Briar Creek and let the radius come down into Wakefield or Briar Creek, I'll get everybody there, but I'll also get a bunch of people on top that maybe are not in the market or can afford or not the right demographic. And so that's okay though, because it's better to market to those, a small group of those people, than it is to drop a pin in the middle of downtown Raleigh and hit everybody in the 15-mile radius, because that'll just be a big waste of money. And sometimes you just have to do that. And when you have to do that, that's when you go into the interest into Facebook. So it doesn't allow you to choose age and doesn't allow you to choose location outside that 15-mile radius, but what it does allow you to do is add interest. So you literally go down that interest list and you just start adding interest. Zillow, Realtor.com, those are two interests. The thing about that is like, just because you have an interest in Zillow or Realtor.com doesn't mean you're buying or selling a home. But a lot of people who do get in the market, the first thing that they do, not the younger demographic, but the older demographic, they will go like the Zillow page or the Realtor.com page because they're spending time on it, and Zillow and Realtor.com keep saying, like my page, like my page. And so that's one reason. And the other reason might just because they want to like it and follow it. And so how many of those people took their like off once they found a house? Most of them didn't. And so you're marketing to a lot of people, but you're still getting more granular. And then if you were just to drop the pin on downtown Raleigh and let it play with everybody. Be in the interest, like computer science. Think about the demographic. How much money do they need to make? And then think about the interests that match those demographics, right? So if we know that person needs to make $100,000 a year, then we're going to target interest in industries that we know that a majority of the industry are getting paid near $100,000 a year. So it's not perfect, but it's better than just boosting it all and letting everybody see it. And a bunch of people are going to spend your money that will never do business with you. And that's not what we want to see. So I'm here to help with that as well. Like I don't have a lot of time, but I'll invest my time in helping you guys. And this is important to me. And all of you know that this is an important question. Otherwise you wouldn't have asked it. So I said a lot of how to do it, but I understand that saying it is easier than actually doing it. So if you need help doing it, get with Rachel and we'll figure out a way to have a little session to show you guys how to do it. But we'd have to do it quickly because your window of opportunity is closing every day. Because right now on the 8th, everything, some retail businesses just opened up. So now during the day, people are going out, and even if they have to stand in line at TJ Maxx, they're going to go do it. So now you're stuck to finding them at nighttime. But that's okay, because it's better than if they could go out to the club or go out to dinner or go hang out at a friend's house. They don't have anything, they can't go do anything. So they're stuck to watch whatever you're going to post in front of them. So make sure that it's valuable, make sure that it has a call to action, and make sure that you're doing it starting today and watching the progress over the next week. Because like I said, as we get closer to more and more things opening, you're going to get less and less attention. But from this point and in the past has been the best time ever in all of our history of being alive, every one of us, no matter how old you are. Now is the best time to reach people, is because no one's ever had as much time on their hands. Like we have a penthouse in Miami that's, we had it at 13.9 million before the pandemic. And then the pandemic came, and then David Beckham bought the unit above us. Because he bought the unit above us during the pandemic, where everybody else would have figured out a different way to spin that, I said, well, you have one of the wealthiest soccer players in the world buying a condo, closing in the first week of April, which we were already into the pandemic at that point. And on paper, he paid $20 million. Now, he didn't really pay that, but to the general public, he paid $20 million. So he paid top of the market in one of the worst markets ever. So that gave me the confidence. Let's increase the sales price to $2 million over what it was. So now we're at 15.9. right? So now people are like, how are you going to reach buyers? Who's going to want to buy that? First off, there's plenty of people buying in that price point right now, right? And actually there's more people buying because there's supply and demand, right? There's less supply because a lot of people got scared and took their home off the market. So now you have more people looking for homes. You had that before this. Now that's even, more, you have more of that. And so with that, you don't have to be so worried about your pricing. Everybody thinks the pricing is going to go down. That may be the case in the future, but as of right now, that's not the case. And that's actually a selling point to anybody who's thinking about selling. Hey, do you really want to ride the market out? Because right now, when everything should have went down, it didn't. And that's not to say that it won't, but as of right now, it didn't. So you only have a small window of opportunity that where it possibly, you could get it sold before it takes a hit, if it's going to take a hit. And I don't think it will. And if it does, it'll be a very small hit and it'll come right back. So, I mean, I would say between 1% and 3% of a hit. And that's just because of the market. That's just because we listen to the news too much. And that's okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, we get fearful and we act in a fearful manner. If you tell me that the market's going to go down, I'm going to act as if the market's going to go down, then I'm going to drive the market down. So you got to, realize that we all of us, in a way, our fear does play into the actual effect that this will have on our economy and our environment.
So that takes us to our next question, which a couple people asked the same question in a few different ways. But when do we start listing property again if we've put that on hold? And how do we handle delays in sellers wanting to postpone listing their properties?
Okay, so you're going to list it now because, again, we don't want to take a chance on riding the market out and it be negative. That's what you're going to tell your sellers is that, hey guys, we need to list now, because if we don't, we take the risk. Don't scare them, because you never want to be the driver of fear, but just let them know that there's a probability that the market could take a hit, and let's try to get it sold before it does, because supply is down and demand is up, and it's more likely to get seen. And if you have a virtual tour, because that's what we do, meaning you're the realtor, that's what you're going to do. You're going to remove one of their obstacles. I don't want people in my house. We're going to say, hey, we got a virtual tour that people can walk through as if they were there. And only when they show enough interest to make an offer pending a walkthrough is when they can walk through your house and you can be inconvenienced, right? Our listing in Miami, no one can walk through that listing. You go through the 3D tour, and when you make an offer that's contingent on your walkthrough and we accept it, that's when you get to walk through the house. Now that's a different market and a different price point. We get to do that, and that's not going to work at the lower end price points, but it just gives you an idea. That's how powerful virtual can be. And so, you're going to tell them, hey, you got to sell now because we don't want to take a risk on riding the market out. 2, I'm going to come in with all the virtual marketing tools that are needed so that you don't have to move out of your house or leave your house or be put into danger of getting any kind of disease from people coming to look at the house. Okay. And those are the 2 biggest fear factors that you have to, overcome with your client. And outside of that, it's really just the minuscule things that you think of, because I think that the biggest fear right now is having people come in and out of their house. I don't see any other fear driving somebody from wanting to make money, right? My neighbors, their wife is a dentist. He's like, I don't want my wife to go back to work for a year, right? That's how scared people are. So you have to realize that, and you have to be the one who removes that fear by providing an actionable plan that is going to work, that makes sense, right? And so you've hit both their most important fears. Hey, we're going to create a virtual tour, but let's get on the market now so we don't take a chance on you not being able to sell it all in the near future.
So regarding virtual showings, what are some best practices that the members can take in starting to provide virtual showings to their clients?
Okay, so new construction homes are the best because you don't have anybody in them, right? Those are easier. Anybody who wants to look at them is going to feel more comfortable about coming into that listing. But for the majority of the homes that are having someone live in them, you want to get a virtual tour done. And I'm not just saying that because I own the company, it's the truth. So find somebody who can help you. We will help you, and it is affordable, but get a virtual tour done. Secondly, I see a lot of agents going in and they do videos of themselves walking through the listing. No one cares about what you want to see. They only care about what they want to see. So you do a Facebook Live and you allow the audience to drive you and guide you through the listing. That's going to get more people involved. And it's also going to allow you to provide people what they want, not what you want. And so be ready for the Facebook Live of the listing. The virtual marketing, you got to let them know. Talk about some of the strategies that we just talked about. We're going to be reaching buyers on a granular level. We're going to build a persona for your home. Based off that persona, we're going to build demographics. Based off those demographics, we're going to figure out where to reach them on social media, because right now that's the only place that they can be reached. You know, on this drive-by signs, we'll have a QR code that takes you to the 3D tour, so people who might be driving by can see that there's a virtual tour there and take that virtual tour. You know, so that's all that it is, like showing the home and selling it. We could talk about other items, but those are the two most important. How do you sell it? Meaning, how do I reach the buyers virtually? And how do I let them walk through it virtually? And the solution is 3D tours to walk through. And then for selling it virtually is your social media, your Google, you know, your friends. You know, it's all about every property should be tailor fitted your strategy to that property. Not every property will utilize the same strategies that you used to sell another property. And so, you know, I look at it, anytime I see a property, I look at it as a fresh property, the only property. There's nothing else out there. It's only this one. And who's going to buy it? And then build that buyer. So.
Wonderful. And then we had another question about how do I automate my business?
Okay.
It's kind of a broad question, but.
Okay, though. Yeah. You know, automation has been, it's definitely, there's more access to automation than there has ever been in all of our careers. And so, but how do you use it, right? And real automation is very expensive, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't automate your business. So the automation that's affordable for your business are provided by other platforms for monthly subscription fees or whatever. I call, a lot of people use tools. Yeah, there's things that I use and there's things that I utilize. I want you to remember that word utilize, because, you know, your son or daughter might use a basketball to entertain themselves, but Michael Jordan utilized the basketball to become a billionaire, right? There's a big difference. So I want you guys to think about the tools that you can utilize to create that automation. Now, I don't know what your workflow looks like, so I can't tell you what you need to automate it, but I can tell you that there's a lot of things out there like chat bots, right? I hate chat bots because I like to talk to real people. So you can do a chat bot, or you can have the chat link to your phone and literally be alerted every time someone's there asking, and you could talk to them personally. You know, that's automation to an extent, meaning I automated the connection with the client because I know they're on my website and I can go talk to them now. I know that every time someone visits a landing page for any of our pages, and if I wanted to, or someone on the team could actually text a chat to that person, you'd be on the page and it would pop up, hey, how are you doing today, right? I know where you're visiting too. So I was like, how's the weather in North Carolina? Or how's the weather in Miami? Because it would tell me this person's coming from Gardner, North Carolina, you know? And so that was kind of like an automation. And the fact that how many of you ever knew who was visiting your site and where they were from? And how many of you could actually talk to them while they're on the site, right? And that's provided through Wix, you know? Get it through Wix, you can get it through Squarespace. So there's a few different platforms that you can build a website on. You know, the other ways, for automation would be, you know, your marketing. Okay, so all of you have websites, right? Put a pixel on it and start retargeting the people who are visiting it. That's automation. That's getting you so many views and so much more interest in a property, and all you did was literally hit the buy button, you know, hit the purchase of the ad spend. And so, you know, you put a pixel, Facebook or Google, preferably Facebook, because it's probably easier for you to access, and have that on your website, and then just do a retargeting ad. You know that if someone's looking at a listing page, that they're probably in the market to be buying. So have them retargeted with an ad or looking for a home. You can get granular and say, hey, I know that they went to a page that was $500,000. So I know that they're looking for homes at a $500,000 price point. So when my marketing goes to that page, meaning anybody who hit that page and I retargeted them, it says looking for a home in the $500,000 price point. Well, of course they are. They know it, you know it, but they don't need to know you know it. It just was a coincidence that your ad came up in their newsfeed when they were actually looking for a home for $500,000. But you showed up in their newsfeed with a solution to their problem. They're looking for a home, and you have some homes in that price point. So that's a way to automate, you know, lead generation, is by implementing the pixels on your website, tracking it, you know, to Facebook, and then retargeting them with an ad that's specific to their need. You know, phone calls. I mean, yeah, you could automate your phone calls, but you better be talking to your clients, because yeah, you just have to talk to your clients. They always want to call. I mean, there's a lot of agents out there, and they're big agents, and you call them and you don't get to ever talk to them. I understand that businesses get big, but you know, I have several businesses and we do business around the world, and no one's ever too small, or I'm never too big to talk to any of those people. So yeah, I'm always available, and I want you guys to be available too, because that's what people buy into. If they talk to you one time, that's better than never talking to you, and that'll last. It'll be a lasting impression. I think a lot of us don't understand, one, that we're leaders, but two, like for instance, being a CEO or an owner of a business like yourself. People actually, oh my gosh, that's the owner of this business. How many of you have ever been in a restaurant and saw the chef or the owner walk up to a table and thought that person was special because the owner of the business was talking to them? In reality, that owner is just like me or you. You're an owner of a business. I'm an owner of a business. So remember that that's the perception that society has. If you see a police officer in a police uniform, you automatically think they're checking you for your speed. Straight up, right? That's the perception that that type of person gives you. So why should it be any different if you're that person? If you're the police officer, if you're the leader, if you're the owner? It shouldn't be. So understand how much value someone talking to you has for your business. Even if it was only one time, even if it was only for you to be like, yeah, this is great. I'm so glad you did business with us. I'm going to hand you off to my associate. They still got to talk to the owner. And that's powerful in your mind.
So that takes us perfectly into a question that just came up in our Q&A section from Tristan. So Tristan wants to know, what top actions would you recommend to a younger agent who's been in the business less than a year to keep building a book of business and achieve success given the current environment?
Okay, so first off, it's great that you've only been in business for that long, because you're the new guard, and you don't have the mentalities that have been created through the years of doing business. And some of those mentalities are founded, and some of them are not unfounded. And the ones that are unfounded are based off of negative experiences that person's had. So I don't look at any negative experience as a negative experience. It's a positive experience. It's training. It's a learning experience, right? And so just because I had a bad experience doing this one deal doesn't mean I'm never going to go try to do a deal like that again. I'm going to take everything I learned from it and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I'm going to be thankful for that experience to have been able to learn from it and apply it so that I don't get into that same mistake, make that same mistake again. And so I think it's great that you're new, because you don't have that mindset. You haven't been battered down like some of these agents have. And so you're a little bit more optimistic, and that's great. Two, I don't know how old you are, Tristan, but if you're younger, it's a great thing as well, because you speak to your demographic, and your demographic is now, if you're in your 20s, I see 25 to 28-year-olds getting ready to buy their first house. I don't know if we've ever seen as many of those younger demographics buying homes as we are now. And I think it speaks to the times. It speaks to the technology. It speaks to the jobs that are available for younger demographics that pay enough for them to buy a home. So it's really opening up doors that have never been opened before. And with those doors being opened, demographics like to work with the same demographics most of the time. So you have an older demographic, they like to work with an older demographic. Not all the time. Sometimes, older people will like to work with younger people and vice versa. I'm kind of I like to work with older people. That's what I like to do, right? But a younger individual in the market is going to attract business around their demographic, right? And so Snapchat, I'm watching, I don't get onto social media. People think I know all about social media. I know how to utilize it to reach you, and that's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about the new Snapchat or the new whatever. I just know that if you're a demographic and I need to reach you and you're on that platform, how am I going to utilize it to reach you? And that's all I care about. But there are a lot of different things like Snapchat. I see the younger demographics doing it. So how are you going to use Snapchat in your business? I don't know how Snapchat works other than it's like a really short 15-second or something like that. So use it to get people's interest in a new listing coming or a new strategy. I see the younger demographic, a lot of them are taking on the content production on their own, which is great. I mean, you have an Osmo and you have an iPhone. The Osmo is like $150. The iPhone you already paid for when you bought a phone, and you need a phone. Put that on and you're getting great video of your listings. I think that being the younger demographic is more willing to go shoot their own video. I think that the disconnect is that a lot of people don't have it in their budget to shoot video or virtual tours, and that's okay. But it needs to be put in there. Whether you go do it yourself or you find the cheapest provider, you need to get that into your, into your workflow, into your tool set, because it's required. But build yourself as the authority in your demographic. If you're in your 20s and you're selling real estate, or if you're in your early 30s and you're selling real estate, build yourself as the value, the authority within that demographic. Why do you know better? Why should I, as a 31-year-old, come buy a home from you? What are you doing differently? What values are you providing? Well, Tristan gives me neighborhood profiles, and Tristan tells me about the city and shows me video clips and different interviews of the business owners downtown. And Tristan, by going to Tristan's website, I get all the information that I need to make an informed decision. And I didn't get it from going to Zillow, and I didn't get it from going to Realtor.com. See, when you're just yourself, you get to be so much more powerful because you're not reliant on all these factors like these bigger organizations are. So you get to pivot easier. Some of these organizations can't even pivot if they wanted to. You can pivot because you can. It's just you. There's nobody else that's affected other than you. And so, the younger, go out and ask your friends, what value adds are you looking for? Find out how many of them are actually going to be buying a home. Figure out based on the data, is that the demographic that you need to focus on? Or like, for instance, when I was 15 and moved out of my home, I had to figure out where the money was at. And the money was with older demographics. So I started to go figure out how to build value for the older demographics. And by doing so, it put me into business with the older demographics. And those older demographics have driven my success. And me continuing to add value for those older demographics have driven my success. So that's definitely a strategy you can implement, is the fact that go after an older demographic, figure out the value add that they have and go add value. A lot of older demographic, they know that times are changing, and a lot of them don't have the time to figure out what is changing. And then you, on the other hand, come from a younger demographic. You've been around technology more. You understand it better. You know what's coming better than most people who are older because you're watching what is coming rather than what was coming. And so you can take that and you could build yourself around to be the authority of the future and give that value to the older demographics. And whether they be other realtors and firms, or it be actually home buyers and sellers.
Wonderful.
Always be adding value.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Always be adding value.
Always. Yes. So I've got one more question outlined for us, but before I go into that last question, I wanted to see, do any of you have any additional questions that we haven't discussed yet? If you do, if you can throw those into the Q&A for us, we'll try to cover those real quick. But while we're waiting to see if any of you have any additional questions, Robert, my last question today is, when COVID-19 is finally over and we get back to normal, what new changes or processes do you think will stick around and become permanent best practices for our members that were probably implemented as emergency solutions during the crisis?
Yeah, so as you have the uncertainty around, what type of spike will occur once things open back up, and until people can no longer fear that they will get sick by going out. That is the biggest factor that you are always going to have to realize. Is yes, all the restaurants opened and all this opened, but you're going to see less and less people go out. It's because they're fearful. They're fearful for their lives. They're fearful for their family lives. And so that fear is going to be a driving factor. It only takes 28 days to create a habit. So we've all been under quarantine for well over 28 days. So just imagine all the habits that are created. So there's two parts to this answer. And one of it's, I want you to realize how many habits you've created in the last 28 days. What are the ways that you're going to do business now? What are you afraid of doing? What are you not going to do anymore? You're not going to fly on planes anymore. You're not going to go out to to gatherings, or you're not going to go eat at restaurants. What are those things? Because most of the time they're in line. Your thoughts are in line, and the environment. See, I always talk about human nature because at the core we all make the same decisions the same way. But our environment, as you grow off the core, it just changes it a little bit. So, for instance, we all need to eat. And we all make the decision in our mind, we need to eat, so let's go find food. And based on our environment, we'll determine what type of food we might eat. Is it a steak or is it tuna, right? And so the same thing is applied, in the way that you make your decisions. So as you continue to go forward in a post-COVID-19 environment, be thinking about the things that you're fearful of. Because at the core, most of the time, people are going to be fearful for the same things. And then you build up. So first principle thinking, go to the core, and then build up from there with solutions based on the fears that you yourself have. Take data from your friends and your family. Ask them the same questions, because we can only speculate at this point. But the one thing I'll tell you is virtual. And the reason being is because we all don't want to go out unnecessary places. So if we don't really have to be there, we don't want to take a risk on going there. And if you can provide an end-to-end solution for people that are buying homes, a virtual solution, yes, they're going to still want to see the home in person. But if you can remove the need for them to be involved in person for as much of this process as possible, those are the firms and the individuals that are going to be successful in the post-COVID-19 environment. And that's the best advice that I can give you. There's plenty more, but we don't have enough time to talk about it. But again, it would all be speculative. The only thing that I can tell you for sure is that virtual is the way to go. That's why I invested in this business 6.5 years ago. I didn't invest into it because I liked 3D or I liked this. I like technology, but I was investing. I'm out of 15. So if I fail, I fail. I have no backup. So I strategize accordingly. My businesses, I have 5 businesses, and 3 of them were considered essential during the shutdown. And all 3 of them did very well in terms of revenue during the shutdown. And yes, I'm blessed, and God has a big, he has a big factor. He played a big factor in that. But at the bottom line is I strategize for environments like this. I started my mobile auto repair business in the last recession. You know, like I build it and strategize around the worst case scenario, and everybody thought I was crazy up until now, right? So now that you've seen what could happen, you don't know what could happen in the future, but you know what just did happen. Plan accordingly. So build your businesses accordingly. Don't be the business that shuts down every time our economy shuts down, because most likely it might happen again. Be the business that thrives when our economy shuts down. Have faith in yourself, have faith in God, and put a strategy together based on real data. So
wonderful. I think that definitely hits the nail on the head. You know, you need to make sure you strategize. So
I made a few notes I just want to go over really quick, because we actually talked about some things. So, and you know, these notes, the way my mind is just like all over the place. So I can actually share these notes, but I don't know if, you know, we'll share them, and then we'll go from there and see if they're structured properly. But you know, right now, mortgage rates are predicted to fall in the coming weeks, and the housing market is still up. And so we talked about sellers taking a risk by riding the market out by selling now. So that's definitely a factor that you want to use in your pitch. The 77% of potential sellers are preparing their home for sale once the shutdown ends. So over the next week, this is the time to go market and reach those 77% of potential sellers, okay, or whatever percentage is in this market. And so I want you to know that people are getting ready in their minds that they're going to want to sell as soon as this is over. And who knows, you might be the agent that gets them to sell now rather than later. And I just gave you two strategies that you could implement to do that. Urban to suburban. Okay. A lot of people are going to be wanting to move from condos, from, you know, basically cruise ships, as I like to call them. And, you know, they're going to want to be moving to a more suburban environment. And so be ready to know that there's definitely a buyer pool, and they're coming from the city. So just realize that as you think about where you pivot. Wants had changed, needs had changed. So the most important home feature now is the outdoor area, your home office, and more space for family, because we all just had our families move back in with us overnight. A lot of us did. So we all now know that anytime in the future, and that's what human nature does, we're getting prepared. So in our minds, we're now preparing ourselves for the possibility of this happening again. So we're going to start making purchasing decisions based off those fears. And so we want to make sure that we have an outdoor area, because we just saw how much time we had to spend outdoor, and it would have sucked if we didn't have an outdoor area. We all know about home offices because we're all now working from home. And I feel strongly now that the data speaks to the fact that people get more done working at home. A lot of large organizations are going to start having you work at home. And so that poses some benefits, but it also poses some negatives. So don't have time to get into that, but just keep that in mind. The biggest reason someone will hold off right now is because of personal safety, as I mentioned. So your solution is to provide the perfect virtual solution. So we talked about a lot of that can be done. I know you guys are smart, and I know you guys know what you need to do, so we don't need to talk about further. But if you need help, like I said, we're going to figure out a way that you can ask more questions and we can get more, answers to you guys. You offer a vibrant and safe environment during all times. That's your new business strategy. We offer a vibrant and safe environment to move during all times. So that way people feel comfortable buying and selling with you moving forward. Banks are implementing tighter borrowing standards, okay? This is bad for some demographics in the market, but we all know that the higher end demographic normally does put 15, 10, or 20% down on their home. Unfortunately, that's what's being happened. The banks are wanting 20% down. You know, the FICO scores are, you know, probably at 700 now compared to when you could get below 700. So I don't want you guys to be like, oh my gosh, this is the end. I want you to think about, okay, what demographics do have 20% to put down? And that's where my focus goes for right now. People will need to be tapping into equity to keep their business afloat, okay? So here's an opportunity for you guys. Go find some deals on the market that have enough equity to fix the house up, but then leave them some equity for their business. Now, that sounds like a good solution, but banks are tightening down the refinancing, so that there may be a roadblock there. But again, if the borrower is a strong enough borrower, then you should have no problem. And if you could show a borrower that was gonna go buy in the first place, meaning I'm gonna go buy a house, but then this just happened, now I don't have any money and I gotta go find the money in my equity to pay for my house or pay for my business. If I knew that there was a house that I could buy, so I get my new house and I can renovate it and still have money left over to go refinance and put it into my business, then you just created a win-win situation, and you took a buyer that left the market for a minute and brought them right back. You revived them. So, you know, you have your supply and demand, which that was the case before. You had inventory issues before this, and so it doesn't mean that they disappeared overnight. I think that new homes will do better because they're more customizable. They're being built in more suburban environments. And a lot of the builders, though some have cut back and nationals have cut back, we've definitely experienced a cutback in business. Meaning we were working on projects and some of these nationals that you never thought would have cut things back, stopped the project. So it's 50-50 there, but you still need to focus on the supply and demand inventory and realize supply and demand is that word is there for a reason, meaning when more people need it and there's less of it, we charge more for it. So that's why you need to understand that in going to price things out in this market. Because where everybody else might be afraid and want to reduce the cost, I'm not afraid when supply and demand is not an issue. Okay, meaning when there's more demand and less supply. I now know that I have a property that is going to sell for whatever I say it's going to sell for because there's less of it, right? And I can't take advantage of that. You got to be smart in the way you price it, but just don't go down on your prices right now. Think about how you might go up or keep them the same. Anything in the market that is virtually marketed right now is selling, and in some cases go for more money because again, more people are looking at the virtual tours and walking in person. So if you have a tour, if you have a listing that doesn't have a virtual tour, unfortunately, most likely it's getting overlooked for the houses that do have a virtual tour because that's all they can do business with as of right now, in a safe manner. You know, growth, 0.5% growth from March 20 to 21. That's down 4.5% from the prior year. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that, of course, it's driven by the current shutdown, which was man-made in a way, meaning like we decided to shut down. It didn't happen for uncontrollable factors. You know, we shut it down, so we made that decision, and now the economy's down. I think that there's been a market realization, which is great. We want the market to realize what it actually is because that's better for all of us moving forward. So if we can get it out of our way now is the opportune time. Many people are missing mortgage payments, but we need to do the research and find out at what price point, okay? Because again, this has affected several different demographics, but the low income demographic has been far more affected than the high income demographic. Yes, the high income demographics may have lost a lot of money in the stock market, but the stock market's already come back. And secondly, they still have jobs, or they're working from home, or they had enough money to not work for a few weeks, and they had the stimulus check come through. So you still have a demographic out there that's very powerful buyer. So don't forget that. There's always a demographic who's making money and buying. Doesn't matter what environment we're in. It happened in the recession. There's people keep buying and people keep selling. That's just going to happen no matter how bad it gets. Don't be the one that uses it as an excuse. Be the one who uses it to their benefit to go after more business or business that you've never gone after before. Pivot. Rents go down. More people are going to rent, but at the same time, more people who are renting are now thinking about buying because again, they're living in a closed environment with many people, and they know that that's not the safest environment for them. So a lot of people who rent can't actually afford to buy. It's just easier for them to rent, but maybe their job is now only, not having you come into the office anymore, and people are getting to work remote, and maybe jobs will go remote completely. And those people who are going remote completely now have more access to live where they want. And so be vigilant on renters, be dropping pins on apartment complexes, send out some flyers there. You guys already did it before. Doesn't mean you need to stop now. Target demos, and I'm almost done. I know we're short on time, but you got investors. They still have money and they need to continue investing because it's their job. That's why they're called investors. So you need to be thinking of how you can bring value to them. What they're worried about right now are occupancy rates, their rent and mortgage payments being made, and the ability to safely buy and sell properties. We talked about the ability to buy and sell properties and how you guys can mitigate those. In terms of rent and mortgage payments and occupancy rates, those are things that they're worried about. So speak to that. Give them data that supports them. Give them ideas that supports them. Let's see. Yeah, the building permits are up and they're still up. So the problem with the new building permits being up is that some permits aren't able to go through. So you have projects that are supposed to have gotten permits back in February who don't even have them now, and that's not good. So there's something to watch there, guys. Yes, the permits are up, but current permits that need to be approved aren't getting approved, and some of those projects are being cut off, and some of the people who move the land, who get the land ready for the builders, are now having to shut down, and they're losing money. It's very scary. So we got to be watching that and be mindful and just know the data behind it so that we can create a strategy to overcome that obstacle. Pivot. So talked about pivoting. REITs, real estate investment trust, okay? Data centers. The more data we need, the more data centers we need. Grocery anchored retail. The more retail centers that are anchored by a grocery store, the better. Why? More people need food than ever before because you can't go out and eat as much. You've got self-storage. More people in limbo need more storage. So, and then you have wireless infrastructure. More mobile data demand. Well, that'll only grow and you'll need more infrastructure for it. And so if you're a real estate agent and you just can't find business in your current markets with your current demographics, then think about REITs. Think about other businesses that are thriving right now, because there are businesses that are thriving right now. Don't forget that. And so that's it. There's a lot more, of course, but those are just some notes that I put aside for the session because I wanted to share that data.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are all things that we need to make sure that we don't lose sight of for sure.
Yeah, and so what I can do here is I'm going to copy and paste it. Now, again, guys, forgive me the way I take notes, and some of it might not be understandable, but I know what it means, so you can just ask me about it. And some of it may have been repeated twice, but okay, maybe it's too much text.
Is it not going? If you want, I'm happy to, if you want to email it to me, I can add it as a PDF on the website with a copy of the recording so that they get kind of that nice little summary of those data points also.
Sure.
Wonderful. Well, I think we've covered all the questions we have. I just want to say thank you so much, Robert, for taking the time to talk with us all today and to brainstorm. I know we all appreciate it and your perspective very, very much.
Yes, and I was just giving some appreciation back to the chat, but yes, thank you guys so much. I hope I brought some value to you. That's my whole goal behind this. Again, if you didn't get the value you were looking for, let's see if we can find it. So, message Rachel. And again, I wanted to do something on top, in addition to this, because I thought there may be some things that didn't get done. Brandon, oh yeah, Jolene, the best name for our business, social media sites, etc. Okay, so I have your name, Jolene. So I'm going to reach out. I'm going to get your contact when we get off here, and I'm going to reach out to you momentarily, and I'll help you with that. No problem. So if you could get Jolene Fecker.
Absolutely. I've got her contact information, so I'll shoot that over to you along with her questions.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's a blessing. I'm so proud to watch you guys grow, and I don't want you guys to have any negative mindsets around this. I only want you to think positively. I want you to be positive about the future. We have a great future ahead of us. We just got to reset. Okay. So it's up to us what opportunities we take in this reset. We could go back to normal, or we could literally reset the way that we do business, the way that we love our family, the way that we love God, the way that we do everything in life. And that's up to you and me and all of us in this world to come together and figure out how we, do a better reset and come back to a future that is the best that we could ever have for our children, for ourselves, and for their children. So that's all that I want from everybody. I just want us all to prosper and thrive, not just survive. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for everything. We appreciate having you. And we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming events.
Yes, I always come.
As soon as they roll around.
If you come, I'll be there.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Robert.